Hi, everybody. What's going on? This is the No Presents pregame show to get you in the know. We are just talking Saints pregame. We had a fun win last week. The Saints absolutely blew Carolina out of the water. I'm a little uh, impressed, all things considered. We had a big win last year, but we're going into the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a legit team. If you watch any of the talking heads, Tom Brady had them as one of his top teams. They almost, they put up a couple of touchdowns against the Browns, let the Browns get 17 points. So we'll see how good they are. I think this is a good matchup for both teams to kind of prove exactly who they are and what they are and really establish an identity. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. But getting into it, we have the inactives first, of course. Spencer Rattler is that emergency third quarterback again. Marshawn Lattimore is out, so that leaves, you know, a question mark to who's going to guard CeeDee Lamb there. So that should be a fun one. Kalen Saunders, DeMarco Jackson, Jalen Ford, Dallin Hooker all out as well. Wide receiver A.T. Perry got a healthy scratch as an inactive. That's pretty interesting considering, his size, and everything like that. I think he'd be a good receiver for the Saints. So it's interesting to see that, he's inactive this week as a healthy scratch. It could just be an instance of, maybe he's not 100%. So the Saints are opting to just kind of take it easy with him, and not rush him back. Had a lot of faith in Bub Means and Mason Tippin. We'll see. Or you could just really like your one and two guys and all your weapons. You still have Alvin Kamara that you could put out there. You have Taysom Hill that could be a receiver or a tight end. And so that might be it. But the big news is Saints rookie Talise Fluiga is active, so that's good. I think there was some commentary about is he going to be active in regards to a starter, maybe just coming in as a rotational guy. We'll see. That's going to be interesting because he was kind of questionable all week. But that's good news for us. The Dallas Cowboys are pretty good at rushing the quarterback. Last season the the Cowboys had a pretty decent amount of sacks in the game, and with last week they had 6 sacks against Cleveland. While we were able to keep Derek Carr healthy and good to go on the grand scheme of things against the Panthers are not exactly the same team as the Dallas Cowboys. They as far as pass rushing, so that'll be interesting to see. It's good to have the rookie there as an active. As far as the Cowboys go, their inactives have not shifted much. They had a little shorter of a list. But yeah, so there's no huge names in my opinion that's that we didn't already know is different for the Dallas inactives. As far as matchups to watch, I think it's going to be interesting to see for starters CeeDee Lamb without Marshawn Lattimore, as we all know. He's CB1 as far as we're all concerned. And without him out there, CeeDee Lamb might be a problem. So it's going to be interesting to see who they put over there. I think probably I would guess Alante is going to see a bit of that. And without Marshawn there, we may even see some Rico Payton action. I don't think he's going to line up against CeeDee Lamb, but it was exciting to see Rico Payton's ascendance into the 53-man roster through the preseason. That was really fun to watch him kind of, make a name for himself and get there. And he might get some action this week early on. So that'll be an interesting matchup to see when he does get in the game. Does Dak attack him? He's a rookie. People have tried to go after him. And even in the end of the Carolina game, right over the middle, Rico was there. So that's going to be fun to see, as far as matchups. The other big matchup is obviously Saints O-line versus the Dallas D line. I said it last week, but I think it's important again because Dallas is a team that likes to get after the quarterback. We just absolutely need to make sure that we are running the ball, making that a priority, stretching these defensive linemen, getting them tired, making sure that they are not going to be a problem for Derek Carr. And the other side is Dak is pretty good at extending plays. But we really need to see something out of the defensive line. Last week, I said that I didn't think we really saw it fully unlocked. There still seemed to be a lot of instances where we probably could have got to the quarterback. But Bryce Young is a little mobile than a lot of guys, and we've struggled with that in the past. But we really need to get to Dak, hit him early. It doesn't matter how veteran a quarterback is. If you hit him, he's going to get rattled. And that's exactly what we need to do to Dak to keep him in check. Chase Young last week, speaking on matchups to watch, Chase Young against the tackle, whatever side he may line up on with Cam Jordan kind of playing different minutes this season. That's going to be interesting because last week I felt like Chase Young overran the quarterback pretty often, almost like he was, maybe getting off a little too fast. So it'll be interesting to see if they make any adjustments there because he just had some explosive power that seems to put him behind where we wanted him to be. And that's not something. Obviously, with a guy like Bryce Young, it puts him in a position where he can step up and take off and extend the play. And Dak Prescott will do the same thing to some effect. Not nearly as I would say as quick as Bryce Young, but still a little more, seasoned back there in order to make that step up throw that, you don't want Chase Young overrunning the quarterback this week. So hopefully they kind of picked up on that and are going to adjust for him to make the correct, attack on whatever tackle he goes up against this week. But yeah, like I said, I don't think that the pass rush was unlocked last week. It's going to be interesting to see. And we'll see how that goes. You protect Derek Carr. He obviously showed last week that you give him time, he's going to make some fun plays, and he's even willing to take one on the chin to make a really fun play with that first touchdown to Rashid Shaheed. But yeah, the Cowboys a little more tough up front for the defensive line, so it's going to be interesting. As far as kind of lines and stuff like that, the Cowboys are pretty much a touchdown favorite in the spread, so that's going to be predictions. I saw 30s to 20 type thing for a lot of guys. I think, like I said, this game is important for the Saints because you gave people a lot of hope. You gave people a lot of excitement last week. If you come out and you play even, I would say, mediocre against Dallas, people are going to go back to that. Oh, well, it was just the Panthers. It was just that. It was this. And frankly, I don't, I don't agree. It's still an NFL team, but if you come out playing poorly against Dallas, it's going to really regress a lot of people and the little bit of hope and belief you gave them to start this season with. But other than that, we'll kind of hop into the rest of the NFC South here. So you have the Falcons. They are playing against the Chiefs. I'm sorry, the Eagles this week. Chiefs are next week. And then you have the Buccaneers, who, as we know, our boy Jaden Daniels could not take care of the Buccaneers last week for us. So they're also 1-0. They're facing off against Detroit this week. And then the Panthers, which, I don't, it's early. The Panthers could find some things, turn some things around. Who knows? There's been crazier stories in the NFL, but they're facing off against the Chargers. So we have, all three of those games are, or two of those games, I'm sorry, the Buccaneers and the Panthers are at noon with our game. And then we have the Falcons and the Eagles tomorrow for Monday Night Football. So we'll have a even clearer picture, of what's going on in the NFC South whenever these games all wrap up. I think Tampa once again is going to be the competition in the NFC South for us. And the Falcons, they put some things together. They have an interesting team. They were kind of slated to be the favorite out of the NFC South this year, which I think a lot of people didn't quite understand, but that seems to be the trend with Atlanta, just kind of getting that grace to be a better team than they really are. But other than that, the rest of the NFL slate is, it's again, I don't think there's any too crazy. Last season, towards the end of the year, we were talking about really fun matchups. Kansas City and Buffalo and stuff like that. But this week, I think the Saints game is probably the game to watch at noon. You have San Francisco and Minnesota, which, I don't really think there's anything too exciting there. But other than that, I really think the Saints game is the game to watch for noon. And then if you want to get into the afternoon games, if you want to watch Sean Payton, he's playing Pittsburgh. He's 0-1. But I think the afternoon game to watch is probably KC and Bengals. See Joe Burrow hopefully turn things around and get back on the W column for week 2. And then Sunday Night Football, Chicago at Houston. I don't. It's going to be interesting, rookie against former rookie of the year guys. So that's going to be fun. That's probably a good matchup, but I don't know if it's exciting football. We'll see. There's still a lot to be um, desired from Caleb Williams. I think if you're watching them over there with Chicago, the defense really won that game for them last week. So it's definitely no question that he could have done more last week, but nonetheless he still started 1-0. So Caleb Williams, fingernail paint and all, he's out there in the NFL, and we'll see what he does. But that's kind of the NFL slate. As far as bets, we're going to pull up FanDuel here. So just kind of look at some anytime touchdown scores that we like for the Saints. I don't honestly, I kind of like the Saints money line at plus 240. It doesn't feel crazy to take that, especially with FanDuel giving 100% bonus this week for money line straight bets. If you got a couple of bucks and you want to throw on that as a little risky one, you think the Saints are going to win? I think the Saints are going to win, so why not? So that's a pretty good one. But as far as touchdown scores, I really think that Chris Olave's due this week. He's plus 220 on FanDuel, so that's a fun one. And then kind of against the grain here, I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. I know he had one last week. I think he had one last week. But it just seems like Brandon Cooks, he's going to come to play against us, right? Even all these years later. So I think, the Saints are probably going to play some interesting coverage on CeeDee Lamb, which may restrict him from scoring, not necessarily performing, but scoring. So I think that leaves Brandon Cooks as that end zone target for them. But other than that, I like I said, I really like both of the receivers, I guess, Chris Olave and Brandon Cooks. If you wanted to go with something as far as a little, more risky, I think let's see here, they got Turpin at 950. I think Turpin had one last week too. I can't recall, but Turpin at 950 isn't awful. But if you really just wanted to be risky, I would say maybe just go with something silly like Taysom Hill 2 touchdowns. We might get down in that red zone, and it might be a little bit different for us this week because their line is a little more stout. Last week we had AK and Jamal Williams both get in the end zone. So Taysom might be that option towards the red zone. So that'll be fun to watch. But yeah, so we got Mark in the comments. Derek Carr's playing well thus far this year. Absolutely, yeah. I think he's playing really. I mean, even at the end of last season, he started to turn things up, and he even commented last season, if I'm not happy, or I know you guys aren't happy. I'm not happy. And I think he came into the season looking hot, looking good. So I think it was kind of the general consensus that if Carr could play the end of this season like he played the end of last season, I think we'll be fine. You have a lot of different plays, different playbook, different style of playing Kubiak versus the old Saints playbook with Pete Carmichael, leaving and Clint coming in. So I think that's definitely going to help. I think it's going to energize Carr. He wants to win. I think that's clear. He showed a lot of emotion and personality last week, which I think we kind of missed. He was just yelling at people a lot last year. What's the situation with Alvin Kamara's long-term contract? I do believe the last report was that Alvin Kamara is not talking contract until the end of the season. Obviously, if the Saints give him the number that he wants, I'm sure he'll talk then. But that was the last word, that he's not talking contract until the end of the season. But yeah, so I don't think we'll hear anything until the end. I'm happy because he ran out last week like a man possessed. He looked like the Alvin Kamara that we all knew, bouncing off of guys, kind of floating around, not really looking like he's even being touched, and coming up with a whole bunch of good plays. But I don't know if I missed this when this was, but it didn't push this forward. So just now, who did I going to get the dub? Absolutely, man, absolutely. Joshua over on Instagram. We definitely we need the dub at the end of the day. I just don't I don't think I don't think last week was a fluke, and this week beating Dallas, a favorite after week one for a lot of people. I really think that we need the win. It's going to shift the hope. It's going to shift the belief. It's going to shift a lot of things in our favor if we do get the W. Kind of jumping into keys to the game here. Said it last week. Gonna say it again because it's important. I might say it every week. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe if we play Carolina again, I won't care so much about it because we don't really need to put the ball down their throat. But run the dang ball. You got AK, you got Jamal, you got Taysom. Even Adam Prentice back there could get you 2 or 3 yards when he puts his nose on the ground. So make Dallas's line tired early. I just repeat what I said last week. You smack them in the face enough times, eventually they're going to get tired of getting smacked in the face, and they're not going to want to chase Derek Carr. They're not going to want to chase Alvin Kamara. They're not going to want to take the hit from Taysom. You do that enough, eventually they're just going to not want to. The other keys to the game on the defensive side of the ball is really just contain CD. I think you cut the head off the snake, it's gonna flap around and die eventually. So I think CD is that head. He's got a new contract along with Dak, and don't get me wrong. I mean, Dak is if it's a two-headed snake, Dak's the other head there. But I think if you cut that head off the snake for the Cowboys, then you have a real chance. And keep being great on special teams. It feels like the special teams that Darren Rizzi has built is something that goes unmentioned pretty often. But I think field position, punts, time, and game management will all be important, and special teams plays a very, very important role in all of the above. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, special teams is going to be important. So other than that, make sure you stay tuned. We will be back post game shortly after the game, typically around 15 to 20 minutes after the game. We go live again. We recap everything. We talk about our bets. We take a look at the rest of the NFL slate and maybe take a little more bets if we like something. We'll see. But yeah, so other than that, who dat? Let's get this win. And this has been the Kneaux Presents, the pregame show to get you in the know.